The wind off the Adriatic was sharp that November evening. When Luca Moretti stepped out of the split ferry terminal, collar turned up against the burra that whipped down from the mountains. Salt stung his eyes. 28 years old, carrying nothing but a leather duffel, and the kind of silence that follows a man who has just lost everything. He had come home to Korčula for his grandmother's funeral. Nonna Anna had died at 91, stubborn to the end, refusing the hospital in Zagreb and insisting on breathing her last in the stone house where she had raised 6 children and buried 2 husbands. The whole island would be there tomorrow. Cousins, uncles, old fishermen who still owed her favors from the war. Luca had not been back in 4 years. Not since Marta. Marta. The name still tasted like copper. He walked the narrow collis toward the old town, boots echoing on the wet limestone. Lanterns glowed amber above doorways draped in black ribbon. The scent of wood smoke and roasting lamb drifted from somewhere. His phone vibrated in his pocket, probably another condolence from colleagues in Milan. He ignored it. The screen had become radioactive since that one text message arrived 3 weeks ago. He could still see it. White letters on black background. Delivered at 2:14 a.m. while he was asleep beside Marta in their apartment overlooking Navigli. Your fiancé has been fucking your brother for 8 months. Check the photos. Attached were 7 images. Marta leaving the flat on Via de Amicis at dawn. Hair tousled, lipstick gone. Marta and Matteo in the back of a taxi, her hand inside his coat. Marta naked on their sofa, his sofa. Matteo's mouth on her throat. The timestamp on that one was the night Luca had been in Frankfurt closing the biggest merger of his career. He had not screamed. He had not thrown the phone. He had simply sat on the edge of the bed until sunrise, studying the curve of her shoulder the way a pathologist studies a cadaver. Then he packed a bag, left his keys on the counter, and took the first train south. No note, no confrontation, just gone. Now, standing beneath the arched gate of St. Mark's Tower, he felt the island stones press against his spine like a warning. Korčula always knew its own. Secrets here were fermented in wine barrels and pickled in sea salt. They never truly disappeared. His mother's house was dark when he arrived. She had gone to stay with Aunt Helena in Blato. Too many memories under this roof, she'd said. Luca let himself in with the key still hidden beneath the terracotta pot of rosemary. Inside smelled of dried fig leaves and candle wax. He dropped his bag and went straight to the kitchen sideboard, where Nonna kept the rakia. The bottle was half full, plum, brutal. He drank from the neck. The funeral was at 10 the next morning. He would have to face them all then. His mother, his aunts, his cousins, and Matteo, who had flown in from London, where he pretended to manage hedge funds while living off family money. Matteo, golden son, charming liar, the one their father had loved best before the heart attack took him 10 years ago. Luca slept 3 hours on the sofa, fully dressed, waking to the sound of church bells and gulls. He shaved with his grandfather's old cutthroat, nicked his jaw, watched blood bead like a pomegranate seed. The cemetery sat on a promontory above the sea, cypress trees leaning inland as if trying to escape the wind. Half the island crowded between the graves. Black shawls, black suits, black sunglasses. The priest's voice carried over the water, Latin and Croatian braided together. Luca stood at the back, hands clasped, eyes fixed on the coffin draped in white lace. Matteo was in the front row beside their mother. Taller than Luca remembered. Hair longer, that same easy posture that made people trust him with their money and their wives. He wore grief well. Shoulders stooped just enough, hand pressed to his heart when the casket lowered. Marta was not there. Of course she wasn't. She had never met Nonna. Luca had always meant to bring her, but work, always work. After the burial came the wake at Konoba Mate. Long tables under a pergola of vines, plates of octopus salad, black risotto, lamb paceno under the bell. Wine flowed. Someone started singing klappa. Old men's voices cracked with sorrow and too much alcohol. Luca drank steadily, answering condolences with the same 3 sentences until the words lost meaning. He was refilling his glass when Matteo found him. "Luca." His brother's voice still had that London polish layered over Dalmatian gravel. "You came." Luca looked at him for the first time in 4 years. Same green eyes as their mother. Same mouth Nonna used to say could charm the devil. He felt nothing. No rage, no pain. Just a vast, icy clarity. "I wouldn't miss it," Luca said. Matteo tried to pull him into an embrace. Luca stepped back, wine sloshing over the rim of his glass. "Careful," Luca murmured. "Red stains." Matteo's smile faltered. "We should talk about everything." "Should we?" Their mother appeared then, cheeks flushed from grief and Prozac, clutching both their arms. "My boys," she sobbed, "together again. Nonna would be happy." Luca let her cry against his shoulder while he stared at Matteo over her gray head. Matteo looked away first. That night, Luca walked the lungomare alone. The sea was black glass, moon fractured across it. He sat on the breakwater where he and Matteo used to dive for sea urchins as kids, cutting their feet on rocks, daring each other deeper. He took out his phone, no password now, nothing left to hide, and opened the anonymous text thread again. Still no number, just that ghost message and the photos. He had tried tracing it through apps, through contacts in cybersecurity. Nothing. Whoever sent it had covered their tracks perfectly. But Korčula was small. Everyone knew everyone's sins. He stayed a week after the funeral, sleeping in the stone house, helping his mother sort Nonna's things. Boxes of photographs, love letters from a Yugoslav officer who never came back from the front. A velvet pouch containing a single gold earring. Nonna had lost the mate in '93 when the Serbs shelled the island. Each object carried weight. One afternoon he found a bundle of letters addressed to him in Nonna's spidery hand, never sent. He read them by the window while rain drummed on terracotta tiles. "My dearest Luca, your brother is drowning and doesn't know it. Pride is a heavy stone around the neck. Forgive him one day, but not yet. First, make him feel the weight." He read that line 3 times. Nonna had known something. She always did. On the 7th day, he drove the rattling Fiat up the switchback road to the village of Pupnat, where their cousin Stipe ran a tiny vineyard. Stipe poured him a glass of pasip so cold it hurt the teeth. "Tell me about Matteo," Luca said without preamble. Stipe wiped his hands on an apron stained purple. "Your brother owes money to some Albanians in Split. A lot. Poker debts, cocaine, whores. Choose your poison. He's been selling pieces of the family land to cover it. Quietly. Mama doesn't know." Luca felt the old rage stir, but colder now. "How much?" "Enough that the house in Korčula town will go next if he doesn't pay by spring." That night, Luca sat at Nonna's old desk and opened her ledger. The real one, hidden behind the fake back panel. Page after page of loans, favors, blackmail dressed as charity. Nona had kept the island running for decades. At the very back, in fresh ink, a single entry dated 3 months ago. Matteo, 180,000 euros owed to Kreshnik Dressage. Interest 15% per month. Collateral, house plus vineyard in Smoke Vika. Note, boy thinks he can outrun the sea. He cannot have. Below it, Nona had written a phone number. Not Albanian, local. 385 country code, then the prefix for Korčula. Luca's pulse thrummed in his ears. He dialed. A woman answered on the third ring, voice like smoke and honey. Da? He knew that voice, had known it since childhood. Ivana, he said. Silence, then a soft laugh. Luca, finally. Ivana Petrovich, their cousin by marriage, once removed. The girl who used to trail after them on bicycles, all knees and elbows and ferocious intelligence. She had left the island at 18 for university in Zagreb, then disappeared into the tech world. Rumors said she built surveillance apps for governments who didn't ask questions. You sent the photos, he said. Not a question. I did. Why? Another pause. He could almost hear her weighing how much truth to give. Because Matteo was going to destroy everything Nona built, Ivana said at last. The land, the houses, our name. And because, her voice cracked just slightly, because he took something from me too, years ago, when I was too young to fight back. The line went quiet, except for the wind rattling the shutters. I'm coming to Zagreb, Luca said. No need. I'm on the ferry tomorrow. We finish this together. They met at dawn on the Riva, mist curling off the water. Ivana looked different. Hair cropped short, eyes older than 31. She wore black jeans and a leather jacket that probably cost more than most islanders made in a year. In her hand was a USB stick. Everything you need, she said. Bank records, voice recordings, the original photos, higher resolution, and the debt contracts. Kreshnik is reasonable if you approach him correctly. Luca turned the stick over in his palm. What do you want? She looked toward the horizon, where the sun bled orange into the sea. I want him to lose the way he made us lose. Slowly, publicly, until he begs. They began the campaign that week. First, the anonymous envelope to their mother. Copies of the debt contracts, Matteo's signature clear as day. She confronted him in the kitchen Luca could hear from the garden. Her sobs, his frantic denials, the crash of a plate against stone. Then the carefully timed leaks to island WhatsApp groups. Screenshots of Matteo snorting lines off a yacht in Hvar. Matteo drunk and shouting slurs at a waiter in Dubrovnik. Each post untraceable, routed through servers in 3 countries. Matteo's London investors started pulling out. His Albanian creditors doubled the interest. He flew back to Korčula wild-eyed, begging their mother for the deeds to Nona's house. She refused, face hardened into something Luca barely recognized. Christmas came. The family gathered as always, though the table felt smaller. Matteo arrived late, unshaven, smelling of fear. He tried to corner Luca in the wine cellar. You're doing this, he hissed. Whatever she told you, it's lies. Marta seduced me. Luca laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You think this is about Marta? He stepped closer until their foreheads almost touched. This is about the summer I was 15, and you told Papa I was the one who crashed the boat. About the university fund you stole when I wanted to study architecture. About every single time you smiled while sliding the knife. Matteo's mouth worked soundlessly. I'm pregnant, Marta had texted him the day before he left Milan. He never replied. He deleted the message, blocked the number, let the silence do its work. Some wounds cauterize themselves. On New Year's Eve, the Albanians came. 2 men in cheap leather jackets, waiting outside Conoba a Diomare, where Matteo was trying to drink himself unconscious. They dragged him into an alley. Luca watched from the shadows across the square, hands in pockets, breath fogging the air. He did not intervene. They broke 3 fingers and his collarbone, left him crying in the garbage. In February, the bank foreclosed on the last vineyard. Matteo disappeared. Some said to Sarajevo. Some said he jumped from the Peljasak Bridge. No body was found. Spring arrived with almond blossoms and tourists. Luca walked the upper road to the old fortress at sunset, Ivana beside him. Below, the red roofs of Korčula town glowed like embers. "It's done," she said quietly. Not quite. He took out his phone, opened a new message, attached the final file Ivana had prepared. Matteo's confession recorded in a split hospital bed, drugged and desperate, admitting everything. The affairs, the embezzlement, the teenage cousin he'd assaulted one August night behind the church, when the fireworks covered her screams. Luca addressed the message to every contact in the family WhatsApp, every journalist on the coast, every former investor in London. His thumb hovered. "Do it," Ivana whispered. He pressed send. They stood in silence as the message delivered, blue ticks spreading like frost. Somewhere below, a church bell tolled 7. The sea turned from gold to indigo. Luca felt no triumph, only the hollow space where rage used to live, now filled with something quieter. Justice, maybe, or just the end of inheritance. Ivana slipped her hand into his. Her fingers were cold. "Nonna would be proud," she said. Luca looked at the horizon, where the last ferry of the day cut a white wake toward the mainland. "No," he said. "She would have done it faster." They walked down the hill together, 2 shadows lengthening across the stones, while behind them the island settled into night and the long, slow business of forgetting.